Instant hello. Hey folks, how you doing? Nick Jennison. It is the Monday Guitar Show. All the tech has stopped working. Hooray! Just what you want to see. Folks, thanks for joining us. It's the Monday Guitar Show. We're doing the thing that we do on Mondays, which is hang out and talk about the guitar. And apparently, we're having all manner of tech issues today. That is better. There we go. Look at that. That is almost fixed. Fantastic. For some reason, not only has our main overlay decided not to load, but also my little camera switching rig has decided not to do its thing. I think I have too much stuff plugged in down here. I'll tell you all about that in a moment. And there's also a reason for the rampant heavy metal in the intro, which we'll chat about in a second. But I want to take this opportunity to welcome you guys on board. Thank you so much for joining us. It's the beginning of a new month, which means we have a new theme on our hands. And the theme for this month is something that was spawned to an extent, at least, from a conversation with a friend who is also a friend of the stream, our friend James, who tunes in fairly regular, who is one of my gym buddies. And we were chatting about this, and he was asking me about ways that you can make your guitar playing, I guess, your practice, ways you can turn your practice into more of a habit, into something that sticks, let's say. So today we're going to talk about 3 ways that you can make your practice into a habit. We're going to talk about why you might want to make your practice into a habit. Well, I think this should be fairly obvious, but we'll get into the why, we'll get into the how, and hopefully we'll leave you with a newfound urge to practice, because, as we say every week, our objective here is to make you a better guitar player when you leave than you were when you arrived, even if it's only slightly, which makes me happy. So, before we go any further, I want to remind you that today's stream is brought to you once again by our friends at licklibrary.com and, of course, Guitar Interactive Magazine. Go to licklibrary.com for lessons, Guitar Interactive Magazine for news, reviews, interviews, all that good, shiny stuff. I want to take a quick second and show you the course that we're chatting about today. Now, this is a course by Sam Bell. We love ourselves some Sammy B here at the Monday Guitar Show and here at Lick Library. I'm going to show you this. This is a brand new practice routine from our friends at from our friend Sam. It's available for Lick Library members. Let me just take a quick second to show you what's going on here. Look at that. There's a notification to say we're live. We don't want that. This is Sam Bell's 30-minute practice routine sequences. This is the important bit, right? So we're doing a load of these guided practice jobs over at Lick Library right now, and I think it's a really great idea. So essentially what these do is they give you almost like a personal training type session that you can just turn up to, switch your brain off, essentially, in terms of like, oh my god, what do I practice? It takes that anxiety away. It gives you essentially a guided practice that you can play along with, that has been signed off by our man Sam, and of course all the good folks over at Lick Library. And this one focuses on fretboard fluency and technique with a focused half-hour session on musical sequences. Now, we've talked at length about the power of musical sequences, so this is a very cool course. It's over here, Nick. There we go. That's where the course is. You can go grab that if you're a Lick Library member. It is not free to non-members, but of course you can always go buy it in the store, or you can consider signing up for membership, and you'll get this included as part of your membership. We also have a blog that we're talking about today, where Eliza Lee has written a fantastic blog on hacking your brain to be more motivated with your practice. So lots of good stuff there. We'll talk more about that as we go on. Now we're going to say some hellos, and then we'll get into the meat of today's stream, which is how you can make practice part of your life. You can make it just something that you do, because we all know that practicing is important, but, you know, hey, hands up, let me know if you, dear viewer, if you have struggled with practice consistency. I know I have at times in my life. It happens to all of us, but I am pretty good at getting back on the wagon and pretty good at making practice just part of what I do. I guess that's why I've had some reasonable success on the instrument, such as it is. You know, there is perhaps a degree of aptitude there, but I think also I have a very strong desire to practice. I really enjoy practicing, but also I've made it just part of my thing that I do. It's made it part of my identity, and we're going to talk about how you can do that. But first, some hellos. PJ is first in the door, first through the door rather, first in the house, first through the door. Same thing. I'm getting my words mixed up because the tech has failed me today. PJ says, good evening all, great to see you, PJ. He's dusted off his Trace Elliott and Fender Jazz Elite. Oh, it's been all the bass this week, love a bit of that. Learning a lot from Phil Williams on Lick Library, fantastic. It's great for the left hand too, very cool. Love ourselves a little bit of that, well done. Now this is an exciting comment from returning and long-time stream friend, this is our friend Marcin, who says, hi guys, tomorrow I'm going to see Mastodon and I'm having a lesson with Bill before the gig. So excited, don't know if I'm going to be able to sleep tonight. I don't think I'd be able to sleep either. That is so freaking cool, man. I'm over the moon for you. That's really, really great. Hope you're taking that lovely PRS. Got my PRS today. By the way, if you guys haven't done so already, let us know in the comments what guitar you're playing, because we want to know which guitar you're playing today. I'm playing this one. This is my PRS CE24. Now, this is from before the time of the modern CEs. This is a 2006 model, which I've done all sorts of modifications to. It's got a set of Fishman Fluence Devin Townsend pickups in there, which are my favorite high output active pickups because they can do the magic trick of sounding a bit like a telly as well, which is very cool. Stainless steel frets throughout. I haven't shaved the neck down, but I have sanded it. The reason I've got this guitar out is I'm currently practicing getting ready for tour. So we're going to be touring in September with Blitzkrieg. We're coming to Holland, Germany, Belgium, I'm trying to think where else. It's going to be a lot of fun. It's the first week and a bit in September. Going to be great fun. I'll post the dates on the Lick Library socials, but I'm also going to be streaming my practice sessions, you friends who are part of the Lick Library community, going to be streaming my practice sessions in the Lick Library community. So if you're not a member of the community already, head over to licklibrary.com, make sure you're signed up. So, there we go, that's why I'm playing this one. Who else do we have? Larry Warren is here, great to see you. Response Audio is in the house, he's at the airport. And echoes our sentiments that is a really cool thing Marcin's doing, for sure. Foghornish is here. Kate Strange is tuning in, playing an Ibanez Gem Junior. We love the Gem Juniors. Which colour? I want to know, because I used to really, really like lust over the black one with the tortoise, sorry, rather the pearl pickguard. Love a bit of that. So let us know which colour. Sacred Godslayer is here. Jason Perry's tuning in with a Leopold mechanical keyboard. My man. They don't like YouTube or guitars that his work, but he's not going to let that stop him. Helmet Strap is here. Franz is here playing a good old friend, an RG 670. Very cool. My 550 is up here. I'll do it up one day, I promise. Crank and Tom's tuning in. Trolls Jan is tuning in, playing his Jackson Kelly. Love a bit of that. Steve Luth, all out this year. Our friend Catmandu 1962 is in the house. Mike Seedorf's here. Dylan Jessup. Vil S. Ergo Hog, my friend. Richard is tuning in. Richard, it's great to see you. Who else do we have? Bernard Newton's here. Raphael O'Halfael is here. Dreams is here. Mal Riley's playing his Strat. Sam Junior Music is in the house, tuning in from Texas. Who else do we have? Make sure we don't miss anybody. He has an interesting one from Sacred Godslayer. He says he has about 50 minutes to practice that is only about mechanics. After 3 months every day, it becomes part of your life, and after a while, the results are daily and sensible incredibly. Now, this is kind of what we're talking about, right? So we're going to star this up. I'm going to come back to that comment. Very cool indeed, right? Very cool observation. Marcin's PRS team. Yes, my man. We love a bit of that. Who else do we have? We're going to make sure we haven't missed anybody. Mike Seedorf is playing a Solar, one of Ola's guitars. Very cool. Love a bit of that. Sam Junior Music says, your lesson from last week on mastering the fretboard has been amazing on Lick Library. Thank you so much, man. I appreciate that. Remember, we've got courses on that subject, so don't forget, if you want some more support, licklibrary.com. That's where you can go and get it. Anyway, let's get into the meat of today's stream, which is how you can make practice part of your life. And we're going to begin with establishing some terms. So there are three kind of, I guess, driving factors that can make us do something. Let's say, right? To do something, apart from obligation. We're not going to talk about obligation. Nobody is obligated to play the guitar, right? The police won't come and get you if you don't do your practice, right? You won't be wheeled off to some secure facility if you don't do your practice. That's not how it works. Sometimes it would be nice if it was, because then, you know, we'd have this real strong drive to go do the practice thing, but that's not how it works. So we're going to get rid of obligation, assuming you don't have a professional gig. If you're a professional musician, you're probably practicing all the time anyway. So anyway, we'll get to that. Now, the three things I want to talk about are the following: motivation, discipline, and habit. Now, these are important things to define before we go any further. I'm going to go one more time. motivation, discipline, habit. I say these things in this order because we as guitar players and anybody in the creative field relies way too much on the former and the second when really what we need is the third, right? Let me tell you what's going on here. So motivation. Motivation is when we see we find ourselves very motivated to practice, right? It can be because we've seen something, we've watched something, we've had a particular moment where we sit down and chat to ourselves and go, Nick, you really need to practice some more. Maybe you've got something coming up. I've got this tour coming up, so, you know, kind of practicing the Blitzkrieg set, making sure I know it inside out to the point where I can play it without distraction, you know, without if there's a storm going on outside, which there is right now, I can play the set and I'm just fine. I tested this incidentally by practicing the set with in-ear monitors in, which is why I've got my in-ears around my neck, while also having a Sungazer tour vlog going on my various monitors, playing in like 5/16. And if you can play heavy metal while jazz fusion is going on in the background, you're probably quite in tune with what's going on. So that would be an example of motivation. Maybe you've watched Ozzy in his last concert, God rest him, and you saw all the amazing guitar players. You saw Nuno, you saw Zach, you saw Jake, and you went, you know what, I really want to practice. Motivation is fleeting. This is the thing, right? Motivation passes, and it is not a good way to sustain long-term efforts. We know this from studies in exercise science. So when we study adherence to exercise, right, we know that motivation is not a good indicator of whether or not somebody is going to stick to a lifestyle intervention. And we say lifestyle intervention in that what we're looking for somebody to go from being a non-exerciser to being somebody that exercises or trains or whatever, has fitness as part of their life. We know that motivation is actually a very poor way of predicting whether or not somebody's going to stick at something, because motivation goes. It is predicated on constantly topping up your supply of motivation. So what do we have next? We have next discipline. And discipline is kind of what happens when motivation wanes, but we keep willing ourselves on. We will ourselves forward. We use our willpower and our discipline to make ourselves practice. We go, I must practice, so I'm going to commit to this. I'm going to be disciplined about my practice, right? I'm going to practice like my life depends on it. Maybe it does. Maybe your livelihood depends on it. Maybe you're a pro musician, right? Truthfully, again, discipline, for all its better than motivation, it's also a poor predictor of whether or not somebody's going to stick to something, because discipline also wanes and requires willpower. It requires you to get up in the morning and go, no, I'm going to practice. Regardless of whether I want to practice, I'm going to practice. So it is better than the motivation thing. Motivation is cool because motivation is like, yeah, I really want to get up and practice. Discipline is, I am going to get up and practice regardless of how I feel, because I know that I must. It still requires a degree of willpower. And willpower is something that, again, it cannot be depended on. It cannot be depended on to get you results. So what we want is we want to form habits. We want to form habits where practicing is just something you do. You don't really think about it. You don't go, well, I must get up and practice. You go, well, I'm up and about. I'm going to practice today because, of course, I'm going to practice. Examples of habits might be things like brushing your teeth, right? So we use this example, right? You get up in the morning, you brush your teeth. Before you go to bed, you brush your teeth, right? Other habits might be having a cup of coffee in the morning. Morning habits are quite a good example. Another habit may be it sounds like a horrible thing to say, but kissing your loved one goodnight. It's a habit. You just do it. You go, well, yeah, I'm going to say goodnight to my loved one, give you a kiss and say goodnight. You take the dog for a walk if you have a dog. These are habits. These are things that you just do. It doesn't require discipline to brush your teeth. Or it shouldn't anyway. You should just be in the habit of doing it. You go, well, yeah, I'm brushing my teeth. That just happens. We know from again, from exercise science, that folks who take exercise and make it a part of their life, they make it a habit, just a thing that they do. Well, they go, well, today I'm going to do some push-ups because I do push-ups on Thursdays, and it's Thursday, so push-ups, we're doing push-ups. Or I'm going to go for a walk because I go for a walk every Sunday after dinner. It's just what I do. These are the kind of folks that tend to succeed at making exercise part of what they do. And we can use exercise as an analog for practice, because it's basically the same thing, right? It is an activity that is geared towards improving some aspect of your life. As far as practice goes, it's improving some aspect of your ability to play the guitar. Whereas exercise is for improving your health or improving other aspects of your physical being. Maybe it's something like you want to grow some bigger muscles. Everybody wants big biceps. Biceps are cool. Maybe you want huge quadriceps. Quads are cooler than biceps. I'm saying this right now, right? Show me someone with big quads. Very cool. The coolest muscle, erector spinae. You heard it here first. Spot the powerlifter. Anyway, so yeah, things like this. This is all habit related, right? This is all habit related. Here's an interesting one from Raphael/Raphael saying, it's weird that rock bands aren't related to these three things. Well, here's an interesting thing, right? I would argue that rock bands are examples, or successful rock bands are examples of habitual practices. These are people who practice because they can't not practice, right? We saw an interview with Slash recently where Slash was talking about keeping his hands in shape. He was asked about how he plays such heavy strings, and he said, well, I just play a lot. Like, I play a lot. Like, I pick the guitar up in the house and I work on things. This is an example of habitual playing. He just plays because he just does. Bands make music because they just do, right? They don't know how to not make music. It would be weird for them not to do it. This is the kind of habitual state that we're talking about. And this is very important, right? This is very important. So we want to find a way to make habitual practice part of your life. And we're going to begin with 1 point, right? 1 point of 3. We're going to give you 3 today, 3 things you can try. And the first thing that you can try is to remove the expectations that practice needs to be an event. It needs to be a big banner event, and it needs to be good, right? Remove those expectations entirely. Your practice does not need to be a banner practice session every time you sit down and do it. And what are we talking about when we say banner practice session? Well, banner practice sessions, like any other kind of banner event, is when you practice and you have a huge breakthrough, or you really put in the work and you go, man, I have absolutely killed it today. I've practiced so hard. I'm going to be so good off the back of this practice session. I've crushed it today. So these sessions are great. These are important sessions, but these are not the kind of sessions that you can expect to have every time you sit down and practice, right? It just doesn't happen that way. The same is true, and I'm going to keep drawing analogies to the gym because it's my other little hobby. Play the guitar for a living, so you got to have a hobby, and my hobby is training because I like to train. So when you train, you cannot expect for every practice session to be, you can't expect for every gym session to be a banner session. I can't expect to go in and PR my back squat every time I squat, right? Because I'd be squatting 1,000 pounds by now, 1,000 kilos at this point. If you go, well, every time I squat, it's just, I crush it. It's the best thing ever. The truth of it is, I'm probably going to have maybe an 80-20 relationship between really good sessions or really eventful sessions, let's say, and pretty mundane sessions where you just put a bit of work in and then you're kind of done. I think you can probably expect about 80% of your practice sessions, much like 80% of your training sessions, to be essentially mundane. And by mundane, what we mean is you put a bit of work in, it's fine. And you go, yeah, whatever, it's cool, I did a bit of practice, that's all right. You can probably expect about 10% of them to be absolutely superb, just the best thing you've ever done. You go, oh man, I made so much progress today. And you can probably expect about 10% of them to be pretty poor, where you turn up and you go, man, my hands don't work, right? I've been working in the garden all day or whatever. I'm just really not feeling it. You go, forget it. The most powerful tool you have for this in terms of making practice a part of your life, the most powerful tool you have is accepting that practice does not need to be eventful. And it can just be mundane. it can be maintenance. We are so guilty of trying to put too much emphasis on practice being something that has to be a big event. It has to be like, oh my God, I've made the most progress I've ever made in years with this practice session. It doesn't need to be that way. You don't need to break new ground every time you practice. You don't even need to practice new things. You just need to pick a guitar up and play a little bit. And when you give yourself that license, it essentially takes away the anxiety of practice. There is no anxiety around a session that doesn't need to be particularly anything. So let's say, for example, we took the example, let's say, for example, I asked you to do the following things, right? So grab your guitars if you haven't done so already. We'll do a little bit of playing. So let's say I asked you, dear friends, to join me in playing some finger-twisting heavy metal licks, right? So we're going to take a lick, because the lick is fun, right? The lick might be something like this. We're going to play in A minor. A really fun lick. We're going to work on that lick today, right? So what do we got? We've got this box, right? We have to 8, 10, 12 on the B string, 8, 10, 12 on high E string. We're going to play this low, middle, high on the high string. Let me get this right. Yeah, that's right. Low, middle, high on the next string. Then we play low on the treble string, high down to low and back again. Really fun lick. Right, you're going to practice that with me. And we're going to play along at speed. We're going to go like this. Here's our big heavy metal backing track. Let's wind that back up. Perhaps somewhat anxiety-inducing, who knows, right? We're going to play this. A fun lick. Potentially on the edge of our abilities, potentially way beyond our abilities, depending upon where you are on your guitar playing journey, right? You may be going, oh, blimey, that's tough. You may be going, I can't play that, that's ridiculous. Or you may be going, yeah, that's a piece of cake for me, Nick. If you are, hey, fair play to you, man. It's not an easy lick, reasonably challenging. I breezed through that lick with reasons, good reasons. And also I wanted to give you a lick, because licks are fun. So, that is an example of a practice session where we're putting expectations on ourselves for it to become a banner session. Now let's take that completely away. And let's say that our only practice task is to play the chords for this backing track. And the chords in question are going to be as follows. An A power chord, an F power chord, a D power chord, an E power chord, an F, and a G. That's it, right? If that's all we have to play, we can get this. You're not even worried about the rhythm. Not even worried about the rhythm. Now imagine for a second I told you that this was actually the secret to being a great guitar player. You play these chords, this is all you need to do, you'll be a great player. Obviously we know that's not true, right? But this is not the kind of practice session that is likely to induce a great deal of performance anxiety in you, because it's quite simple. There's not a lot in it. Hopefully, at least, practicing this should leave you with a sense of banality. It's not really calm. You just go, well, it's kind of fine. It's all right. It's not terribly difficult. Surely I don't need a great deal of practice on that. Now, the reason I bring these up is to show you some extreme examples of what I'm talking about when it comes to the necessity for a practice session to be a banner session or not. If I were to accept that it's enough for me to practice just those power chords and then I'm all right, then I can go into that and go, yeah, cool, practice session. That was done. Excellent. Done my practice for the day. All is well. If, by contrast, I put this pressure on myself to make every session count, make every session the best session, and next time it has to be better, and next time it has to be better, I have to play faster, harder, higher, more complex, man, pretty quickly I'm going to burn out on that one. Now, there are times when that is absolutely the thing to do. When you sit down, you practice, you find that your intrinsic motivation is high, everything's working, you go, yeah, cool, we're going to push in this session. But really, the important thing is just getting the session in. Just get the session in, right? So that's the point with this, is accept that not every session has to be eventful. Some sessions can just be punching the clock. You can turn up, you can play, you can practice a little bit, you can go, hey, it doesn't really matter if it's any good. I did my work, I did a little bit, we're happy here. Now, this again plays out in the strength and conditioning research, where we see time and time again that the most important factor without question for someone's success in any kind of fitness endeavor, be it a dietary intervention where folks are trying to improve their lot through changing their diet, or whether it be through some kind of exercise intervention where you're trying to become fitter, healthier, stronger, better looking, who knows. The most important thing, far and away, without question, beyond, like so far beyond all the other things, beyond exercise selection, beyond programming, beyond set and rep ranges, exercise type, exercise modality, beyond all of these things, the most important thing is consistency. Just doing the thing. And with consistency, we also have the term buy-in, which is just accepting that, yeah, I like this. This is good. I want to do this. Turning up and doing the thing. You will see much greater results on a subpar exercise plan that you actually do than you would on the greatest exercise program in the entire world, put together by cutting-edge sports scientists, that you do for a month and then you take 3 months off and then you come back and do it for 2 weeks and then you go on and you do it for a few weeks and then you go, no, well, I'm going on holiday, so I'm going on holiday at the end of the year, so I'll just stop for 6 weeks. You get the gist, right? The same is true for practice, right? The best practice is the one that you're going to do. And a big part of this is just accepting that practice does not always have to be a huge deal. Now, this leads me to a question. So we've got some great questions coming in here. Here's a good one from my friend John, who's a fabulous guitar player, by the way. He says he practices every day apart from Mondays, a rest day for his hands. It's about consistency and not practicing 8 hours 1 day a week. Absolutely 100%. And the rest day for the hands, I think that's healthy. It's absolutely nothing wrong with that. That's a personal thing. Myself, I don't often feel the need to take a rest day, but I definitely see the value in that. 100%. So here's a quick question that I wanted to highlight from, I'm just going to quickly find this question. Where was this? It was about what to practice. Here it is. Mal Riley says, my problem is deciding what to practice when there are so many things to choose from. I need to make a checklist and I feel like I'm going about it in a systematic way. This is a very valid point, and this is where things like Sam's, I'm going to show you this once again, Sam's guided practice sessions are so valuable because it essentially takes the need to decide away from you. So here's another point with this, right? So I totally sympathize with this need to make your practice systematic, the need to make your practice something that is has some kind of logic about it. And it would definitely be my preference that people have some kind of system in their practicing. That would definitely be my preference. However, what I would hate to see is I would hate to see someone paralyzed by indecision about, well, what should I practice? And then not practicing at all, right? Practice that is, let's say it's not necessarily the perfect thing to practice, will always be better than no practice, in my opinion, right? So practice always beats not practicing, even if it's not perfect. So oftentimes the answer is, well, just pick something. Like, what do you feel like doing today? Go do something. So yes, if you have specific goals, you probably want specific practice. But if you go, I'll tell you, I'll take an example on this, right? I'll take an example on this. So for myself, I'm going to take my training as an example here, because I'm kind of deep in the bowels of a new training program. I'm really enjoying it. And what it has is, because I'm a powerlifter and I compete in powerlifting, I have very specific goals for the barbell lifts, but I also need to do things like conditioning, which is, say, cardio. Let's say most folks would know it as, but we're very pretentious, so we call it conditioning. The conditioning is prescribed as, do some conditioning. Here's how much, here's how hard it should be, go pick something. So rather than me worrying about, well, is the rower better than the ski erg? Is it better than the treadmill? Is that better than a bike? I don't know. It's like, oh, what do I feel like doing today, man? Like, I'll go, well, look, it's a nice day outside. I'll just go for a little jog or a brisk walk up and down some hills. Or I'll go, yeah, it's freezing cold, I'm going to go in and go to the gym and I'll get on a bike. Or I'll get on a rower, etc. It's less important to worry about the absolute minutiae and just go, you know what, just pick something. Pick something. What do you feel like working on? Go work on that. Now, we will get more into the weeds about practice structure and practice session construction, but the most important thing is developing the habit of doing something, right? Now, this leads me to point number 2, because point number 1 was about accepting that not every practice session needs to be a banner session for it to be valuable. Your practice sessions can just be punching the clock, right? It can just be turning up and doing the thing, right? And then you've done the thing and you go, cool, I feel better for that. Let's now turn our attention to some scheduling things, because this is one of the big things that gets in people's way, is scheduling practice, right? In order for practice to be a habit, we need to commit to doing practice, right? Marcin has read my mind on this. He said, let's make the assumption that we have an hour to practice every day, splitting that into 15-minute parts. What 4 things would you focus on developing? A great question. We are going to get to that. We're going to get to that. Troubadour Non with a very kind comment. Thank you so much, man. I appreciate that. That's a lovely comment. So anyway, right. Going back to scheduling, right? Scheduling is an issue because for a lot of folks, we want to make practice a habit, but we just can't find the time. I'm going to go back to myself here. So I am very much on a vocal improvement kick right now. So for you folks that don't know, guitar is my first instrument, but I'm also a singer. I work as a singer. I do like a little bit of session work, a gig all the time as a vocalist, right? If you're a guitar player and you don't sing, learn to sing, right? You'll never be short of work, let me tell you that much. And you will always get the gig over a similarly skilled guitar player who doesn't sing, right? These are musician must-haves, which maybe we'll do a stream on at some point, but the must-haves are basic personal hygiene, be pleasant, be on time, have equipment that works, have done your homework, drive, sing backing vocals. You'll always get the gig. Right. Notice I didn't say at any point, be a genius, because that's kind of secondary. Anyway, so scheduling is an issue. I'm back on the kick of improving my vocals. And I'm looking at my schedule and going, man, I got so much going on. When am I going to fit in vocal practice on top of this? And also, I need to be able to practice my vocals in a private environment. I can't exactly do it in the supermarket. I could come down to my studio and do it, but I'm down at my studio, I'm working. I can't do it in the middle of the night because I'll wake up Nina and she won't be very happy. I'll wake up the neighbours and they really won't be very happy. Although it's a toss-up as to who's going to be more unhappy and more likely to turn to violence, who knows. Can't do it then. When am I going to do this? So I looked at my schedule. I looked at when I have windows of time where I'm basically doing nothing. And one specific window of time where I'm basically doing nothing is when I'm driving in my car. So I'm in my car, I'm sitting there, and I'm basically doing nothing. I'll either have the radio on, or I'll have a podcast on, or I'll have nothing on. And I'll just sit and, I quite like driving in silence. It's kind of nice. I sit and clear my head. It's cool. But I thought to myself, you know, this is a clear 15-minute window where I could be doing some vocal practice. So what I did was I put together a little 15-minute vocal workout that I do every day. And I do it every day in the car. And this is something where I have it on my phone, I plug my phone in before I set off, plug it into the aux in the car, and it plays for 15 minutes. And if I have a 15-minute journey, I will do my vocal workout every day. And now it's become a habit that the first 15-minute journey that I do every day, I do my vocal workout. And then I've noticed over the last few weeks at least, huge improvements in my vocal stamina, in the way my voice sounds. I'm not losing my voice at gigs anymore. This is an example of what I'm talking about, right? It is making practice easy for yourself. Making practice something that is easy and simple for you to do. And this can be as simple as going, you know what? 15 minutes is enough, right? 15 minutes is enough. As Sacred God Slave has rightly pointed out, that if you practice daily, it's more efficient working 15 minutes on 4 things. I would probably argue that, right, it's 15 minutes is probably enough to develop a skill, right? It's probably enough to develop something. If we are efficient with our practice, you can develop lots of things, but we're not talking about that today. We're talking about habit forming. So what we can do is we can say to ourselves, you know what, like 15 minutes, that's enough. That is enough time for me to get my practice in for the day. I don't need to spend more than that. If I do, that's a bonus. I don't need to spend more than 15 minutes practicing. Genuinely. Now, here is a question for you, right? Here's a question for you. And I want to know if the answer is no. Is there anyone among you who does not have 15 minutes that they can spare in a given day? Is there anyone among you who is so busy, right? I definitely am not, right? I know for a fact that I can, if I had to, I'd get up 15 minutes earlier, right? We make this commitment and we go, do you know what? It's only 15 minutes. I can do that. You get up, you do your 15 minutes guitar. You can do it in the morning, right? This is, let's say, for example, this is an example of like micro practice where we go, you know what, I'm going to do 15 minutes. I'm going to put on my practice tape. You make this as easy for you as possible, right? You set up your environment so that your guitar is just there and ready to go. Maybe, let's say, you get out of bed and you go and make some cornflakes or whatever it is. You take a cup of coffee into the front room of your house. You have an acoustic guitar sitting there. You drink your coffee, you put in a 15-minute timer, and you sit and you run some chords and some scales. That is practice. That is practice. It might not be the most perfect practice in the world, but it is practice. Now, here are some things that'll get in the way of that, right? Things that will get in the way of this. If your 15-minute practice session takes any more than exactly 15 minutes to complete because you've got to do other things, you won't do it, right? And what do I mean by that? You have to sit down and grab your guitar out of a case, pick your amplifier up and plug it in. Right? You need to find a sound. You need to choose a backing track to play along with. You need to decide what you're going to practice. Oh, well, okay. And at the end of it, I need to put it all away. I need to get my headphones out. All of these things will preclude you from actually doing this thing, right? You need to make this super easy for yourself to sit down and go, you know what? Gonna get my 15 minutes in. And what might your 15 minutes look like? Well, that is entirely up to you. You might choose to do half of Sam's practice routine. And you may find yourself going, you know what, I'll stick it out for the remaining 30. Why not? I'm feeling good today. I'll finish the rest of the session. Or you'll go, I gotta take the kids to school. I'll stop here, right? This ties into point number 1 of accepting that not every practice session has to be a banner session. And sometimes just 15 minutes with your guitar doing something is enough, right? That is enough. Again, the big principle here, the most important thing is consistency. Be consistent, you'll be fine. You'll be fine. Worry about the rest later, once you've developed this habit. The minutiae of practice, what do I practice? How much do I practice? What time should I schedule my practice? That is for people who've already developed a practicing habit. We're talking now about folks who don't have practice as part of their life. We're going to get to these other subjects in an upcoming stream, right? But this is a really important thing, right? Really important thing. We've got some discussion on vocals, really discussion. I won't sing you anything today, unfortunately, my man. If you want to hear me sing, probably the best place to go check it out is to take a look at the single we put out last year. My band, Saints of Arcadia. You can go and check us out. Or on Spotify, you can go hear me sing some stuff on there. There's lots of footage of me singing as well, but that's a fun place to go have a look. Another place is, if you can find it, I play in a trio called the VCR. Think about your like video cassette recorder. It's like a 70s, 80s kind of band. There's three of us. We have a good time singing. We have a little show reel on YouTube. We don't really publicize it. We just use it to send to venues, but you'll be able to find it. It's public video. You want to see me sing? Those are the places to go find them. Anyway, the discussion on vocals. This is really interesting, right? So our friend Fishbulb says there's a good argument to be made that you don't really want to be singing for too long if you're gigging regularly. 100%, right? Totally agree on this. Now, for me, this is why I have these little short micro practices, because if I'm going to be performing later that day, let's say, for example, I'm performing on a Thursday, Friday, Saturday of a given week, and maybe I have a Tuesday rehearsal, right? On those days, Tuesday rehearsal, Thursday, Friday, Saturday performance, I don't want to be pushing the voice really hard. And I also probably don't want to do it too hard after the 3 shows. I probably don't want to crush myself on that. So I'll do a little bit just to stay in touch with it. But that means on Monday and Wednesday, when I don't have performances, that's where I'll maybe do a longer, more intensive practice session, if that makes sense. So totally agree on that. Absolutely agree on that. Here's one from Chris Brown saying, only practice vocals half an hour a day and have vocal rest days after I've sang on stage for 1 to 2 hours. There you go, right? This is what we're talking about. Vocals are a little different to guitar in that you are dealing with essentially an instrument that is organic, and the instrument is part of you and is susceptible to fatigue, because as you perform, the instrument itself changes. The instrument becomes fatigued. And this is where the fitness fatigue model comes in. It's the same reason why I, as a powerlifter, can't just go in and max out my back squat every day and expect it to come up. It doesn't work that way, because my body is fatigued from a session. I need to give it time to settle down and do its thing. Guitars don't get fatigued. Hands do, but guitars don't get fatigued. And the amount of practice that we can put into a guitar is much greater than the amount of practice we can tolerate for our voice. That's another subject for another day, but some very interesting discussion for sure, right? Well into that. Now, back on scheduling. So that is point number 2, is to allow yourself to schedule in micro practices and accept that a micro practice can be your practice for a given day. You can do more if you've time and you've motivation, but the micro practice is habitual. You go, you know what? I'm just going to do a little micro practice. And the micro practice, I'm telling you right now, I'm giving you license for this. Your 15-minute practice will be enough. That will be enough. Probably don't do any less. Probably don't make it 5. 15 minutes, that's enough. In terms of what, we'll worry about that later. Just start doing some, right? Make it a habit. Make it something that you do. You sit down every day, you do your micro practice. Or a larger practice, if that makes sense. Now, this leads me to point number 3, which is another scheduling thing, which is to make time for longer, more structured, more full practice sessions, but don't feel like you have to do them all the time, right? This goes back to exercise. So, it is common in the wonderful world of powerlifting to train 4 times a week, right? I am at a point in my life right now where I cannot commit to training 4 times a week. It is a challenge for me to schedule in for long, let's call them dedicated lifting sessions. The reason for this is for powerlifting in particular, man, the sessions run on. They can take about 2 hours, right? They take a long time, but this is not like your 40-minute in and out gym session, go get a quick pump. You need to warm up for a competition deadlift, and then you need to warm up for a bench variation, then you need to warm up for a squat variation. We're doing 6, 7 sets of each, then accessories. It takes a long time, right? So for me, I cannot commit to that. So what I've committed to doing instead is I've gone, you know what? I can do 3. I'll do 3. 3 is better than 0. Put it that way, right? And the gains that I make on 3, I'm fine with that. I am okay with that. We'll talk about how this might manifest for you as a guitar player in a second, right? But this is all about taking a look at your personal circumstances and going, when can I sit down and have some big, long practice sessions? For you, this may be 1 day a week. It may be 2 days a week. It may be 5 days a week. Who knows? This depends upon your personal circumstances. But remember, the people we're talking to here are people who don't have a practice habit developed already. I'm not talking to my friend John Footed, who's practicing 6 days a week because he's a pro guitar player. We're talking to people who are struggling to make guitar part of their life, right? So what you do is you go, let's take an honest look at what I can do, and let's accept the minimum. The minimum may be 1 day. It may be you go, you know what, like on Sundays, Sunday mornings, they're quite relaxed. I can get a good hour in on Sunday morning. So then that becomes a thing that you do. You go, you know what, on Sunday mornings, I practice my guitar. And then I have mini practices throughout the week. I'm sure you can see how manageable this would be. And I'm also sure you can see how beneficial this would be, because what we then have is we have one big session where we can do loads of stuff. We can really spend time with our guitar, and then we can touch on all of those points throughout our little mini practices, our little practice snacks throughout the rest of the week. Does this make sense? I hope it does. Now, the important thing here, once again, is to go with what you can actually do. Don't think that, oh well, you know, I must practice for 2 hours every day, otherwise I'll make no progress. That's not how it works. As Ergo Hog has pointed out, any practice is better than no practice, right? So all of these things are about getting that first step in place, which is forming a practice habit. You form the habit first, and then we worry about the rest later, right? We worry about the rest later. We've got some great observations. We're going to take some questions because I'm sure you have them, but to remind yourself of the 3 points we talked about. Here are 3 things you can do to make practice a habit. The first one is accepting that not every practice session has to be remarkable. You can just turn up and do something, and that counts. The second one is to make it easy for yourself to get in small amounts of practice, right? Set up your environment so you can sit down and practice, and allow yourself to engage in mini practices. A mini practice is better than no practice, right? You want to become fitter, 10 push-ups is better than 0 push-ups, right? Or a 5-minute walk is better than a 0-minute walk, right? Does this make sense? Hopefully it does. Hopefully we're reaching you here, because yes, it's all fun to go, well, I'm going to make this dramatic improvement in my guitar playing, and I'm going to sit and I'm going to do 18 hours a day, and I will become Steve Vai in a month. And you go, well, that's cool if you can do that. You'll likely burn out. So maybe we don't want that. The third one is to look at your schedule and honestly decide when you can commit to longer, larger practice sessions, right? Longer, larger practice sessions may be a 1 time a week thing for you. Maybe that's it. Maybe that's all the time you have to commit to. But if you do, that's absolutely fine. Notice, at no point did we talk about what you should practice, or how hard your practice should be, or how structured your practice should be. Those are all secondary to the habit of practicing. First, we must develop the habit. And notice, once again, I'm going to draw back to the points we made at the very beginning, which was that your practice needs to be a habit and not something that is dependent on motivation or dependent upon discipline. It needs to be something that you just do, because those things will fail you. Motivation will fail you. We see it all the time. It's such a common thing that we do streams on this subject, right? We have people coming to our one-to-one lessons at Lick Library and going, I am not motivated to play the guitar. And it's something that myself and the other players and other tutors, we sometimes struggle with this, because we go, you know what, like, what does that even mean? Because we just play the guitar because we kind of have to. You know, it's like, well, just something that we do. We just play the guitar every day because we play the guitar. This is not a moral statement. This is not me saying, well, aren't we great because we do this? We're better people because we do this. Absolutely not. That's far from the truth. But what it is it's just, well, we just do this thing. We've made this habit. We practice, right? In the same way that you do the dishes. It's a habit. You don't need willpower to do the dishes. Hopefully not. You don't need willpower to brush your teeth. You don't need willpower to take the rubbish out or the trash for our American friends, etc. These are just things that you do. You go, well, yeah, I do that. It's a habit. This is all about habit forming, right? We're making habits. That is the crux of this stream, and these are ways you can do it. We're going to take some questions. The questions can be about anything, but if it's about habit forming, even better. And I'm going to see what we got. So we got some good ones coming in. Brian D'Annunzio is in the house. Here we go. What is the best way to get a copy of your Malmsteen 666 episode? Oh, you know what, dude? Like, that was such a cool little series. For everybody who missed that, this is one of my earliest things I did with Lake Library, which is where we took 6 players and we looked at how these 6 players each played 6 note sequences. It was really good fun, and there was some variations on it. Brian, I'll show you it now, but you can go grab the rest. So the gist of the Malmsteen one is that the Malmsteen 6 note sequence is this little classic. So the sequence in question here is to take 3 notes on a given string. And we play, I refer to this in these streams all the time as the Malmsteen sixes, but what we get is we play, if we take 3 notes, we can assign them low, middle, and high. And we can play the following. We can play high, low, middle, low. High, low, middle, low. And we can play that on any 3-note per string scale. So if we take A minor, we can throw that on our heavy metal backing track, and we can get this. Which winds up sounding more like Steve Vai, but the sequence is the Malmsteen one. Now, that's one of the sequences, but the variation that we do on this one, because there's a variation in each one of these, is the inverse Malmsteen, which is another personal favourite of mine. I play this all the time. I also think about this sometimes as the Richie Kotzen sequence, but the inverse one, here we go! I bet that one is from Richie Kotzen, right? The inverse Malmsteen, we're speaking the same language here, because it absolutely is, right? The inverse Malmsteen is where we play, rather than high, low, low, we play low, high, middle, low, middle, high. And it's a really good one for ascending. And that is the inverse Malmsteen, and that's the thrust of that lesson, in essence, Brian. But yeah, you can go get those lessons on lakelibrary.com. They're all available on Lake Library. If they are not available, do me a favor and shoot an email across to support, and they'll make sure that it is available, because it's probably a mistake, it's probably an oversight. So go shoot an email to Stu Shields, at customer support, player support, he'll sort you out, right? The email is available on the Lake Library website. So here is a great one from Troubadour On. It says, one problem is that I get stuck, when I get stuck I play A minor pentatonic. I think the habit is bad to entrench. How do I stop this? Okay, so this is habit breaking. The easiest way to do this is to outlaw certain aspects of the minor pentatonic in your practice. Now, what you might do with this is you may outlaw things like certain strings. This is a very easy way to break these habits, right? You basically forbid yourself from doing certain stuff. So you can outlaw strings, you can outlaw notes, you can outlaw positions. But rather than getting rid of the whole minor pentatonic, what we might do is we might say to ourselves, you know what, I'm finding myself doing this. I'm going to break this by saying no D string. D string is verboten. We play no D string. And you can choose, it can be varied. The D string is not magic. It's not specifically the D string. It can be the high E, it can be whatever you want. It might look something like this. We've got a heavy metal backing track back on because it's good fun. So you might find yourself in this little rut and you go, I'm doing those licks again, this. Oh, ended up unclean somehow. Minor pentatonic is cool, right? There's nothing wrong with it. And you go, I'm sick to death of that. But what I might do is I may say to myself, no D string. Would you look at that? I found myself down here, reaching for a note that I'm unable to access on my next string. And now we're playing fun stuff, right? So the point I'm getting at with this, our friend Troubadour, dear Troubadour, is to use restrictions as a way to get away from this. And this also draws Fishbulb into the conversation, which is, what are you doing when you're getting stuck improvising? So I guess we're talking about the same old licks, right? Getting stuck. The same old licks. The easiest thing to do with this is to impose restrictions on yourself. Rather than trying to generate new material out of thin air, it is much easier to eliminate things. It's much easier to go, you know what? That's not allowed. And rather than not allowing a lick or not allowing a concept, disallow a very specific thing on the instrument. So it could be a note. It could be, you know what? No minor thirds. No minor thirds. Is it going to be the most musical thing you ever play? No, but it's a really great way to get you thinking outside the box. It could be no G and B strings. It could be only G and B strings. It could be no alternate picking. It could be only alternate picking. It could be only hammer-ons and pull-offs. It could be only notes in an unfamiliar area of the fretboard. We could say, I'm only allowed to play notes from the 21st fret up. Bizarre, right? Bizarre. Here's a good one from, it says, yeah, I'd say restrictions and think melodically, find a melody on the neck and build it. Absolutely, right? So that's the next obvious step. But even just like using it as a way of like forcing yourself to play something else. I'm going to do this for you now, and it might be horrible. So I apologize if it is, but I've got a 24 fret guitar, so I'm going to take advantage of that. I am now permitting myself only to play from the 21st fret to the final fret up here, which is 24. Yikes. And we're going to play in the key of A. It's going to be interesting, to say the least, right? What might I guess? I mean, playing some things that I probably haven't played there before. It certainly requires a degree of concentration. It's an interesting way to bust a rut like that. Now, we're going to talk about some strategies in future streams as terms of what you can practice, right? What you can practice, how you should do it, how to structure it, all that sort of stuff. Remember, today is just the first of a series, and this has been about building habits in your practice. If you want something to practice, don't forget, you can go and check out Sam Bell's excellent 30-minute guitar practice routine sequences. We have loads of these, right? If you want some help selecting one, hit us up. Go send an email or, you know, you see this icon down here? Chat, right? Go and chat with us, right? Send this. Our agents are not available right now, right? If it's like 9 to 5 UK daytime, Stu Shields will be on the other end of this. But if not, hit us up. We'll give you some recommendations, right? We like a bit of that. You can go and chat with us. It is always good fun, right? But if you want something to practice, this is a good one to do. Folks, my name's Nick Jennison. This has been the Monday Guitar Show. It has been a great deal of fun. We're going to be continuing this discussion over the next few streams, and it's going to get a way, way, way more granular. But I challenge you this week. This is my challenge to you, a little parting thought. My challenge to you this week is to set about making practice a habit. Make it something you do. Don't worry about what you do, just do some, and then you'll be all right. My name's Nick Jennison. It's been the Monday Guitar Show. Thanks for hanging out. We'll see you guys next week. Don't forget to subscribe on your way out the door. Go to licklibrary.com for lessons, guitarinteractivemagazine.com for news, reviews, interviews, all the other good stuff. I am going to switch this heavy metal backing track for another heavy metal backing track, because why not? We've done so much heavy metal. I'm going to do the modal thrash backing track, which will require me to play over some changes. Could be interesting. Once again, I'm going to be streaming in the Lick Library community, because I like to stream. If you're not a member of our community already, go to the website, go get signed up. It's all good. It's free for Lick Library members. Cool place for you guys to hang out and chat about stuff. I'll be streaming my practice sessions in preparation for the upcoming Blitzkrieg tour. So if you want to hear me playing to a click track and see what it really looks like when you practice this sort of stuff, and also see what the studio looks like when it's not tidy, come join me on there. I'll see you guys next week. Same place, same time. Don't forget to give us your sub. We really do appreciate it. I'll see you guys next week. That slightly bum note, among many of the bum notes, feels like a good place to leave it. I'll see you guys next week.